what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv podcast network. My name is Alan Jackson. Off to my right on the video screen is Brian Jackson, or just the other voice you're going to hear that is not my voice on the audio podcast side. Brian, how you doing?
It's just the younger, more attractive, smarter, the one you're going to want to listen to, just that one, right? That's what you meant to say? Did I cut you off before you got to that? Or
no, that was pretty much what I meant to say.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're right. You got it.
Yep.
You got it. The youthful, much more youthful by like what?
Yeah.
3 years? We're 3 years difference, right?
3. Yes, we were. Yes, we crossed over in high school. Good.
So right? So I'm 24 and you're 21. That checks out about right. So we're good.
Oh, to be young again, Alan.
No.
I mean, I just wake up every day and say, at least I'm younger than you, and it just kind of gets me through the day because it could be a lot worse.
Well, you know what really makes me feel my age is watching the Wimbledon final today.
Oh my God.
And Alcaraz won. And when they go to interview him afterwards, they're like, "And how old are you again?" He's like 20. I'm like, So basically he's the age of not even my oldest son. He's like the age of he's younger than my middle son. Oh geez. Yeah,
that was impressive, wasn't it? Did you watch the whole match?
Oh yeah.
It was such a great match.
After that first set, I'm like, Djokovic is just gonna run away with this, and I was happy it went 5, and I was happy it was a good game, good match.
Yep, the youngster.
Yeah,
So
it's nice. Anyway, so enough griping about our age. Let's take our.
You just talk about tennis the whole time if you want. Do you want to just do that?
Talking about tennis, I'd be happy to do that too. So, take our sharp, nimble minds, regardless of any age we've got. Our minds are still sharp. Our minds are still nimble, ready to talk technology and dig into it. And Brian, we're gonna dig into some things today. Look, we went kind of easy last week on technology. What did we talk about last week, by the way? Do you remember? It was a fascinating episode. I can already tell.
It wasn't calendars. That was 2 episodes ago.
We took social media. We talked about Threads.
Yes.
The new social media. So that was tech light. That was Now let's get back under the hood and talk about some stuff. We're going to talk some more home automation technology today. It's been a while since we've chatted about this, but we want to dig into our home automation setup a little bit more. Thought it'd be a good time for us to do a little refresh on kind of where we are with home automation, the platforms we're using, why we're using them, and then Brian, dare I say you are considering joining the flock, joining our group, our little community of HomeKit users. HomeKit is Apple's home automation technology, and Brian has not been a HomeKit user for some time. You've been on the Alexa platform primarily, right?
Correct. And, we've been on Alexa many years, and have a lot of different. I am toying with this. I am toying with it. Yes, toe
in the water, and I get. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Exactly why are you doing that, and maybe what's been your experience in that so far. I think that sounds like a good plan.
Yep.
So far.
Yep. Let's do that.
So again, for those that maybe haven't heard us talk about home automation in quite a while, just let's do a quick little 2-minute primer, just to remind everybody what we're dealing with. To be able to automate things in your home, whether it be lights, whether it be outlets, whether it be anything that can tie into home automation, there are basically 3 platforms available to use for most consumers. You've got Google's platform, which is Google Home. So devices that you get, lights, light bulbs, outlets, anything that's home automation capable, Wi-Fi capable, will tap into one of these three platforms. You've got the Google Home, you've got Alexa, which is Amazon's platform, and then you've got HomeKit, which is Apple's platform. Google and Alexa share a lot of resources. There's a lot of products you can get that will work with either of those platforms right off the bat. HomeKit's been the one a little more off on an island. It's a little more, not every product that's made works with HomeKit natively. It's been a little bit of a sore spot for people who've been in HomeKit like me since almost the beginning. But we have talked about there's some technologies that are rolling out that hopefully bridge across all three, meaning you go buy a product in the future, and as long as it supports this the Matter technology, it will be able to be used in any of the three platforms. But unfortunately, until all those products come out that are that way, you pretty much have to choose which platform you're going to standardize on and use as your one that you're going to use to automate your home. Each of them have some benefits. I mean, HomeKit, the benefit is it's native to your iPhone, your Mac, your iPad. If you have that, it's already built in. You can turn it on and start using it right away. So, of course, it's got a great user base for that. Alexa, also pretty ubiquitous. I mean, everybody who's got an Amazon Echo has already got kind of a starting point on that, or any of the Amazon products, the Alexa products. And then, of course, Google is Google. I mean, Google just has a lot of stuff, has a lot of services, has a lot of connectivity, especially for people on Android devices. That's already going to be built in there. So, Brian, where are you right now with your home automation setup? Kind of describe for me where you are.
Yeah. So I've, as I mentioned, I've been with Alexa based smart home products for years. So everything that we purchased in the past has been to work with the Alexa system. So we have a number of the dots around, which are the smart speakers where you can speak to it. We have an Alexa Show, which is in our kitchen, which we love. It's a way that we can play music, but also see news on the screen, that sort of thing. So we've used that, and since that was our structure, that we had these dots, and we had kind of the ability to speak to her throughout our house, that we would buy items that would work with Alexa. So we have a number of items through Hue, through Wemo, through what's the TP Link? What is that company now?
Casa.
Mm-hmm. We have a number of these things, Wise, right? All of them are capable of working with the Amazon network. So the way we have automation is there's not a ton of things that I've set to truly be automated. It's what we wanted voice control of a lot of things. So
you want to
my key is not necessarily automation, but voice. Yeah.
And that's a good distinction. So when we say home automation, it's not always that we're truly automating services. It's that we have the ability to control the things we want through different vehicles, whether it be our voice, whether it be an app, whether it be some other way. That's when we say home automation, it's broader than just going in and saying, I want my lights to come on at 6 o'clock at night.
Right.
That is a piece of it. That's automation, but it's also just as much saying, I want to be able to have my voice to say, turn on this light or shut down this appliance or whatever it may be. So
so it's a little bit more on the efficiency side, right? All of that is about efficiency, right? For us, automation, if I tell it to make sure my garage door is always closed at 11 o'clock at night, if it happens to be left open, make sure it closes, right? That's automation, because I might forget. But we really wanted ease of being able to do things like going into a room and saying, turn on living room lights, and have the things turn on rather than having to go and stumble for the lamp and click it on, all of that. So we've been doing that for a long time and have loved it. We've gotten fairly comfortable with that. We don't touch a lot of light switches, so don't have to touch a lot of light switches. And we tie some things together so that if we say living room, it really represents lots of things, and all of those can come on together rather than each individual light. So that's the way we've been operating. That's our smart home kind of capacity right now. Yeah. The problem that I have, one, I love the interface of HomeKit. I mean, I love the fact that the idea of being able to integrate it better within the Apple ecosystem, my smart home capabilities, which, Alexa doesn't always do very well. I will say it does a pretty good job of things like, when we're fixing dinner, we'll say, Alexa, play music, and it's tapping into our Apple Music account to play music. So that's great. So there's talking between the two. They're working together in a way, right?
I think Alexa and even I think even Google has some sort of connection where
integration.
You can work with Apple Music, which is nice if you have an Apple Music account. There's a little crossover.
Yeah, but the thing you can't do very well is run some of those automations elsewhere when you're away from the home. So when I'm away from the home, if I wanted to, oh my gosh, I forgot to do something. I forgot to turn the lights off on this. Well, I do have to go into my Alexa app, open the Alexa app, talk to it, tell it what I want it to do, and then have it connect. Whereas it is really nice with Siri to be able to just say that as I'm driving because my phone's next to me and just say the hey S word, have her wake up, say, go do this and make sure this happens, right? So not necessarily the automation, but the ease of being able to do voice commands is great within the home, the way we have it set up right now. It's not necessarily great out of the home. And it's also, not the ideal environment for a number of future devices, I think, that could be really useful. There's a number of things I'd love to get into, like a smart lock like you have and some of that. But when I do that, I really want to get to a more robust platform, which I think HomeKit is. But as we'll talk about in a minute, it's got its limitations too. So, so that's where I am. I'm trying to figure out, can I do the full switch? And if I can't do the full switch, can I have both active? And will that be problematic, right? Can I have both HomeKit and Alexa active so that voice could be a one and some of the other integrations be on the other? And
really your question is, can like a HomeKit and Amazon lay claim to the same devices
right
at the same time? Because I know you can have both platforms running at the same time if you've got hubs or devices that are tied into it. The key is, though, if you want to be able to say, I want to turn that light on and I want to be able to use my voice through Siri to do it, or I want to be able to use another an app on my Alexa or Alexa device to do it. Can they both be controlling that device through different commands at the same time?
Yeah, and maybe I'll cut to the chase. They can. I know they can.
Yeah. Right.
The problem that I have is really about stability, right? Is it eventually going to get unstable to where one is going to not catch one of the things that the other one does and know that it's turned on and off and all of this? I'm just worried about having both. I think we can live with, listen, if we're talking to our phone, we're saying the S word. If we're talking anywhere else in the house, we're saying the A word, right? We should be able to do that and eventually get to the point where we maybe move to one. But when you go through and set these things up, and again, we're talking about third party products that are then kind of imported into a ecosystem, connected, and having them connect multiple ways, doing the same thing, it makes me a little bit nervous in how stable it's going to be over time. But we'll see. And now there's another piece to it. When, of course, we've talked, which is what we'll get into in a little bit, is I'm also worried about the stability of having non-HomeKit devices that I am doing a workaround to get to work within HomeKit.
And we'll get to that a little bit later. That's a whole other thing.
So I have a lot of stability questions.
I will tell you, Brian, even though everything in my house that I've got tied together is all HomeKit. I mean, it is all working through HomeKit. I can't tell you the last time I opened up Amazon Alexa app, or because we do have like one device around that I think was an Alexa device. I have never even looked at the Google home environment.
Yeah.
So I'm all bought in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I am in on the HomeKit side. But every time I'm adding a device to my HomeKit platform, I feel like the old days of when I used to have to work on PCs and you're adding peripherals or you're adding things to it and you just something just doesn't work and you don't know why, because there's like 5 different places now where something could be wrong.
Yeah.
It's kind of the way I feel like when we're building these HomeKit systems, because we are using other vendors, other manufacturers' devices. We're using different types of protocol that they're using to communicate with each other. There's different setup process for each. And sure enough, it's it's about a 30% fail rate. And anytime I try to set something up, I know 1 out of 3 times it's not going to work right. And I'm either going to have to reset the device, or I'm going to have to do something else. I don't know if that's HomeKit specific or if that's just home automation and home controlling in general. So, it's not the cleanest process. That's why I got so excited when I heard about the Matter announcements and trying to standardize things. I'm like, that could be great. But I've got my first device that is a Matter equipped device, and it was still kind of a pain to set up. I mean, it was still a setup. It was still a bear to set it up. I had to go through it a couple different times to get it to work. Look, I love the fact that it was not a HomeKit approved device initially, but now I can use it because it's got the Matter upgrade on it and it will work. So I like having capability to it, but it's still not a smooth process. So I'd love to hear your experiences with HomeKit, and if that's something you're experiencing the same way, or if there's other complications you're getting into with it. Maybe we can kind of compare our notes on this.
So I am on the therapy couch right now. I can bare my soul here for you and let you know what's
Brian,
going on.
Tell me about your HomeKit.
Okay. Let me tell you my HomeKit experience so far. So this was mainly a weekend exploration where, let me back up, Alan. So you turned me on to a device many episodes ago, Aqara, Aqara. Yeah, Aqara. And Aqara is one of these third-party systems that they have. I think they have light bulbs. I think they have plugs. They have all sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that they had that you mentioned getting, which I had been looking for and trying to figure out a way to do, which I thought would be a lot simpler than having to go with a new. I thought there'd be plenty of these out there, but they're not. The micro switch, mini switch, I think they call it. Yeah. And it's a small button. Alan, you have.
I have one here for those on video can see. It's just a small little push button device. There's a few manufacturers that make these. Aqara is one of them. This is not an Aqara, but it looks just like it. Just has a big round imprint in the middle for the button. But same idea. You press it and it does something. And you can program it to do a double. See, I programmed mine to turn my lights off and they just turned off. So I can program it to turn them on and they just turn on. So that's the way it works. So
I love that, right? And the reason that I wanted one of those, which you and I think we've talked about as well, is I love the fact that we have an automation set up in our house that if I say, Alexa, good night, every light that's in the house anywhere would turn off. Luckily, I'm in my office where there's no voice. You are, and also, there's no light here either. So
you are Alexa free in that room.
So I'm Alexa free right now if I don't speak too loudly. But at any point in time, we can say, Alexa, good night. And any light that we happen to have left on turns off. So we know we don't have lights on at night, which is great. And, there are ways of also even setting up and saying, make sure our garage door is closed, make sure these things have happened, right? That we kind of have a layer of these things in there. And we'll use that. But the problem is my wife and I go to sleep at different times. She'll go. And then later when I come, I don't want to use my voice to wake her up to say good night. So I was hoping to find just a simple button on the side of the table that I could click and it would go through that routine so that I don't have to use voice. Now, could I pull up my phone, open up the Alexa app, click the button that is that routine? Yes, but I really didn't want to do that. I wanted something simple. I wanted to be able to reach in the middle of the night if I happen to forget about it and press it and have it do its thing. But to do that, there isn't just buttons that you buy that automatically fit in with everything else that you're doing. It's a whole new system for me. So Aquara was the one that I went with. There's several that do this, but each one requires their own hub, or at least I found they all require their own hub. I don't know if you've seen any that don't have a hub. Any buttons?
Not the little buttons. No.
Yeah. And I just wanted something simple, right? I didn't want to do anything other than me program it to respond in a particular way. So I bought 2 of those. I was going to put one in the bedroom. I was going to put one downstairs, kind of in our movie room, which is dark as you walk in. So I could click it, have the lights turn on, and not have to, use voice, not have to go stumble for the remote control, all of that stuff.
Right.
So I thought that would be super easy. I think price-wise, they were I bought them on Prime Day, so they were a little bit cheaper. But, 2 buttons and a hub, I think together were maybe $60, something like that, all 3 of those pieces.
Right. Unfortunately, that hub is always going to be the price. I like the fact the buttons themselves are pretty affordable, but you still got to get that one-time hub purchase, which I never liked, but oh well. And
I do like the fact that this hub is easier to set up than some of the other hubs. Like a Hue Light hub has to go in through your network, so it's got an Ethernet port. This one does not. And I was worried that this would, because if it did, I don't have any ports available. So I was thinking, now I have another purchase I have to make to do some sort of. This is just plug into the wall.
I was going to say, is it one of the round ones that just plugs right into the wall? It's
just plugs into the wall and immediately connects to your Wi-Fi when you tell it how to do that. Nice. It's also got a little light around it that you can use as the night light, right? So, so that's great. That's great. Got it in. Super excited. All I wanted to do was I wanted to connect that skill to Alexa, which, the terminology for those that are on Alexa, you connect skills, and the skills are based off of the companies that it's going to work with. So Wemo, Casa, all of that. You go and say, well, I want to put the Aquara skill on Alexa, which means that it's going to recognize the Aquara hub. It's going to recognize anything that's plugged into it or connected to it. And sure enough, it did right away. It noticed and said, hey, you've got a hub, and it looks like you've got a button. The problem is everything's going well, right? Until you realize that there is no way, or at least no way that I've found yet, to have that button create something in Alexa's routines to happen, which was the whole purpose, right? Press a button, and it goes and says, I'm going to do your Alexa routine, right? Good night or good morning, whatever it is that I have set up. But it would not allow that to happen. So it's basically a one-way scenario. So there's a Aquara skill, but I believe the Aquara skill is so that Alexa can control light bulbs and everything else from Aquara. But it's not allowing the backwards compatibility, which is the button to control Alexa.
So that's a problem. Brian, every time I hear a problem, I anytime somebody tells me a problem, something they can't figure out, I immediately have a web browser fired up.
You Google it.
A search. And what's funny is, so I did a search just for your sake. How to use a Quora button to do an Alexa routine. And that's exactly the search I gave. And there's a page on Reddit of somebody saying how to use an Quora button to do Alexa routine. And then the answer is, you can't do this right now.
You got me excited there for a minute.
I know. But now, granted, that was 2 years ago. It was posted there, but there's not been any update on that. So I'm shocked that that's not something that would work.
Well, so here's the way it should work, right? Is that, well, as it does in every other type of device, like a light bulb and everything else, you go into that particular app, like let's say I'm in Hue, and I name it and I tell it what it is. Okay, this is my bedroom light. This is, all of this. And then since you've connected Alexa to it, Alexa pulls that information and says, cool, now when you tell me to turn on the bedroom light, I know which light to send the signal to, right? I just assumed that these buttons would have that similar way of going back and forth. But, if you go in the Aquara app, which is not great, by the way, I really get frustrated with that one. But once you get it all synced, it says, okay, great, we have a button. And it says, do you want to do automation? And I'm like, cool, yes, I want to do automation. And it's like, great, you don't have any automations to set up because you don't have any equipment. And so it doesn't recognize the equipment that is the rest of my house, obviously, because it's usually Amazon pulling, right?
Yeah.
So if I got a light.
Can you at least have the Aquara light change colors?
Oh, I can have the Aquara hub turn its nightlight off and on.
Well, that's it. That's worth it for me. I think
that is worth that $70, right?
Huh. So these buttons, the buttons don't tap into Alexa, can't connect to these devices and see them as being able to relay actions or whatever you call it.
It basically doesn't take input. It doesn't take input from the device. It takes like information from the device, but isn't taking input for its own commands, is what I'm recognizing. You know, it's like, Alan, now that I say this, I don't understand why it can't do it. So my Sonos system, which is the speaker system that we have, it has Alexa integrated into it, which means I can talk to it and say, you know, Alexa, do whatever, and it sends a command and goes into Amazon and makes things happen. So it has to have a two-way street available, but it's not allowing these buttons to work, these third-party buttons to work. So,
okay. Well, look, let me say one thing first.
Yep,
it's possible there is a way to do it, but it's obviously not clear out of the box.
It's not built in. It is not built in.
There's probably some quirky, weird way you could make it happen. I'm sure there is.
Well, I would imagine I'd have to have a second piece. It's like, hey, I want to integrate with this and make this happen. Yeah. Aquara does integrate with Sonos, which maybe I could try to do a back end and say, okay, now when I do this click, make this happen with the Sonos, which makes this happen with Alexa. I don't know. But here was my come to Jesus moment, right? When I figured that wasn't going to work, and I'm in the Aquara app, and it has two setting buttons. One is smart speaker, and that's where you can choose Alexa or Google integration. That's where I was getting stuck. And then the other one is HomeKit. Yeah. And now the HomeKit, it does what it's interesting is it's supposed to do allow me to copy back and forth what your home setup is. So when you say integrate, it's saying, oh, cool. Now we're going to give this information to HomeKit, and HomeKit's going to give us information back, and we're going to know what to do. Now, I still couldn't get that to work out, to have Aquara actually show all of my things that were in home, which it looked like it should, to do an automation. But I didn't have to. Because when I went into HomeKit, it came in. Yeah,
that's where it happens. There. It doesn't pull all those devices into the Aquara app. What it does is when you
it's supposed to though.
I've never seen it do that.
Well, if you look in there and you say the sync, and it gives you two options. So do you want to sync from home to Aquara, or do you want to sync from Aquara to home? And I clicked both, and it still says, "Oh, don't have any home devices." So anyway, which I never want to use the Aquara. I never want to use a Aquara app anyway.
No,
I never want to use many of these apps other than. Bad. So
all right.
So anyway, I got it in.
All the HomeKit. When you saw HomeKit as a option right out of the box, you're like, okay, well maybe this is the sign that you ought to start dipping your toe over here and seeing if you can make this work. Right.
Right. And if that would allow me to work in concert with having Alexa still do everything, but have this button go through HomeKit to just do that thing. Right, maybe set up the good night and the good morning.
I would say,
and that's all.
Set up that same routine in HomeKit.
Right? Okay. Which means every one of those lights I want to turn off and turn on have to then be in HomeKit. Yeah, there's the dilemma, right? I have lots of things throughout the house that are not HomeKit compatible. Okay. However, Alan, we talked about before this ta-da moment that we can use another service, which I know you presented, probably a year or two ago.
Yeah.
That you were using, called Home Bridge. And to remind people, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, started using it recently, but it is software that can run that then converts the signals that it's getting from non-HomeKit devices and changes them into a HomeKit enabled signal, that something that HomeKit can recognize. So it's
Correct.
basically saying, well, you speak to us and we will spit it out in a different way so that HomeKit can understand. So it's a workaround to get your other devices to be recognized by HomeKit.
Correct. Mainly because, and I think the reason this was built up is because HomeKit was one of those platforms where you got a lot of great devices being made out in the marketplace, but only a fraction of them were HomeKit compatible. So open source community created this HomeBridge platform where you can run a piece of software on at your home, as long as it's running on a 24-hour a day computer or NAS or system or something where it's always up and running. And as long as you have it running, it is listening on your home network all the time for whatever devices you've registered with it. And it will basically allow those devices then to show up on your HomeKit as icons, just like any other HomeKit device, as long as you get it configured right. So yeah, that's the idea of it. It is a free service. It's a free piece of software. You download it and you install it. And once you install it, it's a pretty quick and easy to run. The challenge is just making it work. I mean, you can get it turned on, but it doesn't do anything until you start adding what's called plugins to it and things that allow it to work with these other devices. That's where things can get a little hairy. Let me show you, because I know I showed a screenshot or showing what HomeBridge looked like last year, and it's a little daunting. So I get it when people see it.
Candid.
Let's see. Yeah. So here is when you run HomeKit or HomeBridge. This is what you see. And yes, a lot of people I know their brain shuts down right now, and I get it. It's a little daunting. It's really not as daunting as it makes it look, but HomeBridge is a service when you install it and you let it run. It's doing all this code stuff here to let you know what it's doing, but it's not really where you have to pay a lot of attention to this code. And they give you some nice dashboard stuff up here too, but really the key with HomeBridge, as you know, Brian, is really the plugins. And that's where you're adding plugins to allow it to work with different devices. So, for example, I've got a Lutron light switch in my house that it works with HomeKit, but it came with a little extra remote that the idea is that you could put this little extra light switch remote somewhere else on another wall, and it would control that same original light switch. It kind of acts as an extra remote, which is nice, but I don't have a need for that. So this has been sitting around, but then I found out with HomeBridge, you can actually get a plugin to configure this to make it do anything else on HomeKit you want it to do. So I can actually have this now as a button to turn on or off things somewhere else in the house, any other HomeKit devices. But that's what HomeBridge does, is allows you to work with those devices. You just got to find the right plugin and get it configured and set up. And then in theory, it should work. But Brian, I'm kind of anxious to hear your take on that, because I just summed it up to make it sound pretty easy, but it's honestly not. It can be pretty difficult. So
yeah, well, I would say I did not have too much trouble setting HomeBridge up. And just to, Alan, you said you're running yours on your NAS system.
My Synology NAS. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so our Synology, Alan and I both have the same kind of backup system where we store all of our files and have kind of our own home internal server. But what makes it a server, and that it actually has a processor and it can run things, it can run programs and do things. So I decided to install this on my NAS as well, set it up. I think it worked just fine initially, got HomeBridge going. Mm-hmm. It was up pretty quick. Now, it's not the easiest of things to do for someone who's not comfortable with doing some terminal commands and that sort of thing, right? Sure. There are some things but luckily there are plenty of web pages out there that will say, here are the 20 step-by-step things. And if you just follow them, go through it, it all works just fine. So mine is up and running. Very happy about that. And then, so HomeBridge is going, and then the plugins, right? The plugins are a little challenging. you go and search and say, now realize what we're talking about here. So I set up Homebridge, and the reason I did it is I want all of my devices that are non-HomeKit compatible. I need them to be able to come through here and get spit out as HomeKit. So first thing I did was I went to HomeKit on one of my devices and tried to see what does it recognize already, because I wasn't really sure what was HomeKit accessible or compatible. And I found that not many things in my house were HomeKit compatible. So that told me I needed to go look around the house and figure out what are all the lights and things that I have that are not showing up naturally or natively through HomeKit, and find out what company they're for. So, for example, Hue light bulbs, they were not showing up effectively early on. My Casa plugs, my what were some of the others that I had? That might have been the big ones. And my Wise. I have a switch, a dual switch that's Wise, that I have outdoor lights on. So within each one of those, I needed to go and see if there was a plugin that would work for that particular company, and that's the way I went about it. So as Alan has here, the second one, Lutron, he probably went in and typed Lutron and tried to see what came up. Right now, he just did Wise and did the same idea, and tried to see how many different plugins are there that claim to help you use your Wise products. And Alan, I don't know if you have much experience with using non-verified stuff, or if you always default to verified. I was trying to default to verified stuff because I figured that at least they had confirmed it somewhat to run. So yeah, with that first one, just you click install, and then you look to see whether or not it's going to work, whether some of those things start to pop up. So as Alan's going through here, he's clicking install, it's doing its back-end development. And then it does ask you to do some settings here, which in my case with Wise, I have to put my username for Wise, by the way, for Wise account, my username and my password, so that when it goes out there, it's going to be able to access those all of my devices that are found on my account. So it did that. That all worked. That came back. The one thing that doesn't work, and we can talk about this a little later about why, but the cameras that I have do not show up. They show up as They show up as devices, but they do not show up as cameras. They show up as like plugs or something like that.
Right. And I think that's the HomeKit secure video format. I think it does not. There's a different standard that has to be applied to video camera footage to work in HomeKit. So I think that's where biggest
RTSP, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Which basically means you have to turn that camera into a camera that produces its signal on the web, like streamable. I think that's what it means. You're turning your camera into a streamable camera, not just an internal. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, Wise, that app can see it right now, can use it. It's saying we're going to give it an IP address, and we're going to put it out there, and then you can go in and you can manually say, well, I want to point to this particular camera at this IP address, and you should be able to do it. That's not that big of a concern to me, because I don't mind using the Wise app for our cameras. That's the only thing I use it for. Right. The only thing I use that app for is cameras, and I'm totally fine. The notifications work well. Everything's good. So that was just a dive where I thought it'd be kind of cool to see if I could get it to work. But the other things, Hue, actually, let me see, Alan, what the plugins I have going. I have, it's spinning. I know I have Wise. I have Hue. I have TP-Link, I have Wiz, W-I-Z, which I have a couple of light bulbs, which is basically a cheap version of Hue, I think. Mm-hmm. They were even connected, I believe, but I had to get a separate one for that. I have Wise. I have Wemo, and I have MyQ. I put MyQ, which is my garage door, which unfortunately it could not get still to work effectively. But so each of those, they allowed, once I installed them, and then of course restarted my home bridge every time, just to restart the system. Then I look over to see, is it coming in on the HomeKit? Does HomeKit recognize it? And off we go, right? Then you're able to see a lot of these things coming in. So I would say for anybody who feels good about HomeKit, meaning you can pull HomeKit up or the Home app, and you're a Mac person, you see it and you say, oh my gosh, this is great. I love using this and I want to use these other things. And you have the capability of doing HomeBridge. I think it's great. I think that works really, really nicely. I don't know how stable it's going to be. I don't know how often I'm going to have to go in and update, firmwares or anything like that. But right now it seems to work pretty well.
Just to kind of show a little proof and concept here, what we're talking about. I showed you in the HomeBridge, I had the Lutron Cassetta plugin to work with this little guy right here. And so now you're seeing on the screen that little kitchen Pico. That is this now in there. If I were to go in here and actually see the setting, it just pops up. Once I installed it in HomeBridge and got the right plugin, that device just popped up in my HomeKit as a device. And if I look at it, I can go down to the bottom and see that it shows that Lutron's the manufacturer, which is good. But if I look at the bridge, it is using the HomeBridge to connect to it. So that's where this is coming from. But now I can configure this switch just like a HomeKit device. So that's in theory how it all should work, Now, Brian, you mentioned some vendors that you were getting some plugins for. Everybody listening, just keep in mind, some of those vendors, some of their products they make are HomeKit compatible. It just so happens Brian has versions that are not HomeKit compatible.
Older ones. Yeah. Some of the older ones are not. Are not.
I mean, for example, I've got, the MyQ garage doors, but that's because I specifically went and bought one of the MyQ garage door openers that were HomeKit compatible already.
And didn't you buy the hub or something? You had to buy the MyQ hub, right? Which is what I don't have. So that was not going to work. But
so anyway, I'd say about 20% of these items are ones that are not native HomeKit. They are switches I've pulled in. My projector, my sound system, all are routing through HomeBridge because they're not native HomeKit apps to work with. So,
So that part I think has gone.
Yeah.
That part I thought was good. I mean, I do. If you don't mind getting your hands dirty a little bit and looking into using something like HomeBridge, and if you have a server or if you have a Raspberry Pi that you have set up somewhere that you don't mind having running all the time. Because do keep in mind, if this thing stops running, if I were to unplug my server, it no longer sends that signal. So therefore I can no longer control those lights other than if I still had Alexa going.
Some people have a computer dedicated to doing nothing but their media server, their playback on their TV. That's the device they use. That's a good one to install it on because again, it's going to be on all the time. As long as your computer is on your network and on all the time, then you can install HomeBridge on it. But it is better to run it on either more dedicated little device. Raspberry Pi is a good one. Or as Brian mentioned, of course, if you have a NAS, a network attached storage like we do, that has an operating system built into it, then you can install it there and it runs. And that's kind of ideal because it gives it a lot of horsepower. I'd be afraid of running it just on some little computer to make sure it's going to keep up with everything. Okay.
Well, not only just the horsepower. I mean, this thing is these NAS systems are made to run all the time. Like they are designed to run all the time. They're designed to let you know if it's not running correctly. Alan, I shared a screen with you really quickly, and this is I just wanted to show you. This is in HomeBridge. These are the devices I've been able to send through HomeBridge. So you can see the top line up there. There's a the Wise Buds. I don't know. It's so funny. The headphones that I have show up in the Wise app, so therefore they show up here. and you just have to ignore them and tell them, okay, that's nothing I can turn on and off. But
Right.
some of that stuff, the upper string lights, the lower string lights, those are wise. The sensors, the bar sensor and all of that, sliding door sensors, those are wise. Pendant light and family room lamp. Several of these are from like Casa. So I was able to get all of these in. They pulled in. They show up now on the HomeKit.
Good.
Except there's a big step here that I'd love to take a diversion if we can and talk about HomeKit for a minute, because setting HomeKit up was not the easiest thing for me, and it may be something that others may run into that I want to kind of go through for a quick second, if you don't mind. So
go ahead, and it's time to bash on HomeKit.
Okay,
go ahead and do it.
Well, let me talk through HomeKit, and I'm gonna show you a different screen because I want you to see my HomeKit, which should show up there.
Okay. Yep, we got it.
Okay. All right. So this is on an iPad, and I'll tell you why that had to happen here shortly. But so HomeKit for me worked pretty well. The app is already built in. You open it up, and if you create a home and say this is my new home, and here's all the things that it can see, and you start pulling it in, you make rooms on the home and say, I have these different rooms, and every device that I bring in, I assign it to a particular room, right? All of these things. All that was pretty good. Once I got HomeBridge going, I started pulling it in. Here was the issue, Alan. You remember the little clicker that I bought? And the whole reason I jumped to HomeKit was because this clicker wasn't working.
The Asana,
the Quora button.
Yeah,
correct.
Got it.
So the mini switch. Yep. So it shows up. Right, it came over in because it is HomeKit enabled already. So it shows up and says, "Great, we have this hub. We also have this button that's attached to it. Great, they brought those in." And when I clicked on the button to do something with it, it said, "You need to have a home hub, right? You need to have a home hub in your house in order to use this." Now, Home Hub for Apple is either your Apple TV or an Apple Home Pod, right? It uses either the HomePod or your Apple TV as its hub. It's kind of its gateway to take these things. I think it
can use an iPad as well.
Oh, it can?
So.
Okay.
I think so. I think it can.
I didn't see that as an option, but maybe. So here's where the interesting thing happened, right? So Alan, I don't know if you know, but HomeKit just went through an upgrade recently, where it allows now you to share your account with other people, right? Which it wasn't doing before, or at least wasn't supposedly, I think, doing as well. Plus, it adds Matter, to its system, right? Which is what we want. So, so here I'm on my phone. I'm in the Home app. I'm seeing several devices come into my home, because of HomeBridge.
Yep.
I try the button. Try to click on it so I could assign it some tasks or a setup in there, and it says you need to have a HomeBridge, or you need to have a home hub. So then I realized, I've got Apple TVs, and I thought I had them turned on as hubs already. So I look in my Apple TV, look in the settings, go to HomeKit, and it says, "Oh, this is in the living room." So I'm saying, "Oh, great!" So the Apple TV's in the living room. So I'm assuming it's my hub already. I'm looking at my app and it's not showing it in the living room, right? And then I realize, your home hub, which is my Apple TV, has to be logged in as the main user of that Apple TV, has to be logged in with the same Apple ID as the home app that you're using. So my home app, this is where the trouble comes about. And I guarantee I'm not the only one that has this situation, but my wife and I have separate Apple IDs. Okay. So we have our Apple IDs so that we can keep some of our stuff separate. We have the same Apple ID. We actually use hers for media and purchases. So anything that music, I didn't want to have my own music and her own music. We want to share music. So luckily, Apple does allow you to sign in on a device as an Apple ID and then sign in a different account for purchases if you want. So, and that's what I've always done on my phones is I have one account, my Apple ID, which is where I store things and have access to my settings. She has hers, but then we both use her Apple ID as the purchases because that's the one that we have bought music through for years and all of that. So it won't allow me to use Home on my phone because I'm in a different Apple ID than what is on the Apple TV. The Apple TV, which is, of course, where the purchases and everything, we needed that to be on hers. All right. So to get around that, I would have to, I'd have to go get my wife's phone and then set up Home through her phone, right? Say, all right, I'm setting up a new Home, make sure that it connects then with the Apple TV. The Apple TV is the hub. All's good, right? Well, my wife's out of town, so I don't have her phone access at all. Mm-hmm. So I figure, well, what am I going to do? I will turn my iPad. I will change to her Apple ID on the iPad. Currently, it's on mine, but I already had it there for purchases. So I said, well, I'll just go ahead and make it right now. We'll make it just so I can set things up. Okay. So I did that. Worked pretty well. Once I got that set up as on that Apple ID, then I pulled up HomeKit again, made sure that the Apple TV was showing up already, which means that great, it's on the same system. Then I go in and then say, great, I need to add that Quora. So I said add, and then it pops up and says, well, you need to be an administrator to do this. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, why am I not an administrator? Because I'm on the Apple ID that just created this house or this home, and I'm already in there on the hub. Could not figure out why. I had to restart, like several times. I had to restart the Apple TV. I had to restart the iPad. I had to go and create yet another home. Okay. Finally got it to where, yes, it was showing that I could actually create things and change things, that I was the administrator. So that took a long time, a lot more than it should have. So my word of advice on that piece is, if you have multiple Apple IDs and you have like an Apple TV or something that you are using for one person's account, the default user on the Apple TV needs to be the same as the person who is the owner of your home or HomeKit home.
Right.
Okay. Now, first of all, that's an issue because I don't want my wife to be the owner of the HomeKit because she doesn't necessarily want to deal with this. Like, she doesn't want to be the one having to tweak a lot of things. She's like, hey, just show it to me and let me play. So here's the issue. Okay. So, right. Okay, if I pull up, so Alan, you're still sharing, right? So if I pull up right here, you'll see that I can go to home settings. And right now you'll see that Laura is the owner. Okay. And I am the resident. So I was able to do that by inviting myself into the account. Now, first time I did that, it also said you have to be administrator. You can't do this. And I had to go through kind of going back and forth with it and finally got it to where I could invite someone. But when you invite someone, the only thing that person can do is see your home equipment. So it can pull up the home page, just like we were showing a second ago. I can pull up this page on my phone. I can turn everything on and off. I just can't add anything. I can't change anything. I can't change the setup here.
Can you go back to that list again of the people, and now go to you. Yep. So the edit accessories, you would toggle on,
which I did not catch. Oh, look at that! See, this is why I'm on the couch for you right now, right? This is what's helping me here.
Where do I need to send invoices to? I'm not sure if they go to your home address or if you get them.
Okay.
So yeah.
Awesome. So I'm the admin now.
But now look, you're right in that you do need to think about when you're setting this all up, which Apple ID account you're going to be setting it up on. Because you're
doing this would not have worked with the hub. It could still not work with the hub.
And Laura is still set up as the owner. And I don't think there's a way to change that unless you get rid of everything and bomb it and start over again.
Right.
You can at least make you an admin, which you just did, which at least allows you if you have any devices already, you can go in and add things on there. That's good. But it is quirky. Look, I went through tons of issues. We had the same kind of issue for a while. I had a random Apple TV in our house that kept creating its own home with my wife's Apple ID account that I could never get them to come together, and like I could never get it to go away and her just to default into ours. It's not easy. So
well, this was my third or fourth home that I had to create.
Yeah.
Like when something wasn't working, I'd say, well, delete the home and let's start again. All right, create a new home. Eventually I had to create it under her account.
Yeah.
And again, so the other thing I could have done if you're in this situation, which I definitely did not want to do, was I could have had the Apple TV default to my Apple ID.
Yeah.
The Apple TV's ID would have been, but the problem is that doesn't have my purchase. It doesn't have the settings and things that we use as a family. So that was where that one was going to be anyway. So I had to go through hers. Now, luckily, thank you. Now I can be an admin, so at least I can tweak these things.
Yes,
you're still going to have the issue of, if I were to, let's see. Okay, so this is good, right? So Homebridge is still sending stuff in. The Apple TV is going to stay on her account. Do you know if there's anything that's different about a owner versus an administrator?
I don't.
Okay. I think it's the owner switch where it starts, right? I
think the owner can basically just like delete the home or something like that.
Probably can. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you can add, as an administrator, you can add any device. You can add rooms, I believe. You can assign things to room. I mean, you can do everything, I believe, from the home automation side.
Okay, that's
that
good.
An admin can do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. That'll help the going forward a little bit, not have to go through her device in order to make all these things happen. Sure. The other piece that I had some problems with. Because I was adding that Aquara and it didn't work the first time and I had to re-add it again on a new home, it started also seeing duplicates of everything. Like it started showing me two of the same thing. So you'd have to go in and figure out, well, which one is this really talking for? And the other one, get rid of it, like remove it, right? So I'm often getting some duplicates of things. And
go back up to the little dot up in the top right corner.
Yep.
For me. Okay.
Yeah.
So right now it's just seeing one home.
It's just seeing one home.
That device is just seeing one home. Which is
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. I deleted the other homes.
Okay.
Because they were certainly causing me some issues. Having multiple homes. So
sure.
So that part was good. Now
it's
what I can do here,
I'm with you on that.
Let's do this real quick, Alan. I'll just check while we're here. Because the big question we had was about, can you have these two systems handling the exact same devices? So I have a light back behind me.
Okay.
It's here under Office, right? So the Office lamp, it's off right now. So of course, if I click it, you'll see the lamp's on behind me, right? Click it off. Okay. Now I'm going to pull up the Alexa app and I'm going to tell it. So Alexa, turn on the Office lamp.
For those of you listening on the audio podcast, nothing is happening.
Turn on the Office lamp.
We are watching the right?
Okay.
Oh,
there it is.
The Biden's light did not it just came on. The light is on.
Okay, let me try it again. Light is on. Try it again. Alexa, turn off the Office lamp. Okay. So she did that.
And
let me just go right back over here.
Just watch the HomeKit. Does it actually register? Is it? Yep.
Oh, so well, no, I just did that. Oh,
you did that. So I want to see.
Here's the issue. Let's try this.
Will update and the status, even though it was not the one that controlled it.
Alexa, turn off the Office lamp.
Okay.
Because see, it needs to pull in that status as well, because if not, right now, HomeKit thinks that lamp is on.
So I'm wondering, let me just go up here and do a little, will it? Oh, so there, it finally synced up. It finally synced up.
I will say, HomeKit takes a few moments sometimes to update its
Yep.
status. It's not as speedy with that as I'd like for it to be, but it is reading the status. So it sees that you turned the light off with Alexa. It's still registering it as an off on HomeKit, which is good.
Yep.
Which means now you can say turn it on HomeKit, and
Good.
it would work as well. Good.
And I was just noticing, I mean, this one is one of the ones that's on Homebridge.
Okay.
Which would explain having another minute or two, or not a minute, a few seconds
Possibly.
as well, right?
Yeah.
Because it has to go and maybe sync it up.
Yes
that
and no,
too.
but I'll tell you, HomeKit just sometimes
has its own thing.
Is not as on the refreshing of status. Like I can watch lights go on in my backyard on a timer, and I can sit there and look at my screen on my phone, on my HomeKit screen, and wait 10, 15 seconds, before I see it actually change the status on the screen. So it's doing it. It's just
this
not
is
always
good.
as quick with it.
Yep. So this is good. And as you can see, what I had to do was, of course, I can't use my Alexa goodnight scene, right? Scene, because I had to create a new scene that does the exact same thing, right? Mm-hmm. You can see that I had a scene here that just everything goes off. Everything goes off, right? Okay. So I did that, and then was able to add this button here, the bedroom button, which was the little button, and have it set up for single press is good night, and then double press. What I wanted to do on the bedside was, okay, let's say I need to get up in the middle of the night to go take the dog out. Mm-hmm. Do a double click, and I want a light down the hall to turn on, and I want the outdoor light to turn on, so that no stumbling. Here we go, right? It's from that same button. So I have those two things, the back porch and the record table light turning on with a double click. Nice. Yeah, so this is good. I mean, I'm hopeful that continues. So I get nervous, right? Because I've got three things going on. I've got Homebridge that it needs to work and stay active, HomeKit that needs to be updated, and Alexa that needs to continue to know these things. And the naming of them, right? I don't know if the naming automatically syncs. Probably not, right? I mean, some of them come over from the app, right? This is one of the things to keep in mind, right? I've set some of these lights up as, upper string light somewhere. But if it's not set up as upper string light in the application that I'm bringing, like Wise, so I named it there in Wise, and great, it came here just fine. But if I named it inAlexa, which I do a lot of these, I've named them all there. They're not coming over.
That's not
so
going
you have to rename.
Yep. You have to rename.
So of course, having my spouse in the same house who doesn't want to deal with a lot of these inconsistencies, I need to make sure they're all the same. So she can either say it or she can see it, and she knows which is which, and they all need to be lining up.
So you're talking about basically having two platforms running in tandem on the same devices, that you need to make sure they're basically in sync with each other, even though they're not technically in sync. You got to make sure the names are the same on every device. So really, you could be using HomeKit for any kind of automation, for any kind of scripting or actions, but you've also got Vocal with Alexa. You've got devices already all over the place to capture Alexa information.
Because eventually, we may swap those out for the Apple, Apple smart speakers or something like that. But I don't want to. If all it is taking my voice, I don't want to change that. Yeah, I like it.
As long as
you
if you create a routine or automation on one, you just need to replicate it on the other one as well with the same device names. And in theory,
let me just check one more piece here, Ellen. Right, one more step in the process, which is my phone. If I tell my phone, "Hey Siri, turn on the office lamp." There we go. So now we got voice that I could go either direction, right? I could go Alexa or I could go Siri. And the same thing can be controlled, assuming that I have similar names and kind of use that in the same
similar
way.
Names. And you would also need the same rooms set up in case you ever have a voice command to say, "Hey, play this in this room," or "Turn off this in this room." Just, that may be something else to consider.
That's good.
Just saying, if you're going to create the same exact platform on both sides, just have the same device names in the same rooms. Right. And of course, the same names of your routines or scenes. So,
and the interesting part here, Alan, is that office lamp. So that in Alexa is named office lamp. Mm-hmm. That is the name of the device. This one I just named lamp, but it's in the office. So therefore the same word is going to do it, right? So you kind of have to recognize how you have them set up. But so far I think this is exciting for me, because I would love to move towards this. This look is great, right? I would love to have maybe an iPad one day that sits on, the beds or the couch side table and controlling. And
I don't want to dip too deep into rumors, but they keep talking about that. Supposedly, two things I've heard of. One is almost like a mini iPad that's really just more of a status screen type of device that would be perfect for HomeKit operations and all. The other one is putting a screen on a HomePod, or to make it like an Amazon Show type of device. So you could actually have a smart speaker with a screen on it. I think if they could roll those two things out or get those out there, that starts to make the whole HomeKit ecosystem, I think, a pretty viable one. Because one of the things right now that's hard to compete against is that the Alexa speakers and the Alexa voice command boxes are inexpensive. They've been around for a while. A lot of people have them. It's hard to go and justify replacing them with $99 HomePod minis, everywhere you go. You just can't do it. I mean, I love the HomePod mini, but I can't, I don't want to go and put one in every house in my room, every room in my house, as much as I'd like to. It's just, I'm not going to spend that money for that. So, but if they were, $49, $39 little Amazon or Alexa pucks, I probably would put them in every room. So they've got to work on how they get a cheap device that can go in the rooms. That's when I can start seeing them siphon them off some of that Alexa platform work. So, so can I show you, just because I like showing people that are getting into the HomeKit world, and I just like showing them one or two really quick things. I know we're running over an hour, but I want to, you talked for a lot of it. I've had to sit here quiet for most of it. So I'd like to talk for a minute. That's okay.
I know you will.
Yeah. Yes. So, the thing I want to show you really quick, just because it's a thing I think that tripped me up when I was working with HomeKit initially, is that, okay, so if you have a device, and I'm just going to go to that same little switch that I've got here, by default, things that I add new from like HomeKit or something else, try to throw it in the default room if I don't specifically add it. So default room is where that's like my staging room. That's where I'm like got devices I'm still working on configuring or experimenting with or whatever. But if I take this shortcut, this little, the little button I've got, and I want it to do something. So the easy thing to do in HomeKit is you say, hey, single press. And I want it to turn on this scene that I already had set up. Okay. But if you wanted it to do something a little bit more robust than just on or off something you've got in your home network, you can actually go, and let me do this, where you go to choose your devices that you want to control. Down at the very bottom is the little button that's called convert to shortcut. Okay. Which I don't know why it's hidden down here at the bottom. I don't know why they don't make this more clear on what this is for. But this is where you would go in and you can create an actual automation, like a shortcut, like the Apple shortcuts that we have, that you have access to on your Mac or other device. This is where you can even go in and create a little routine, almost like a if then something, and you can have it do multiple things, almost like a scene, but with a little more control in it. So just to let you know, there is a button down there to use for that converting to a shortcut. And what that does, it overrides whatever devices you were going to use. And it just uses this shortcut to control. But for example, what I've done for this button, okay, is if I say, okay, I want to set it to where if I press it, I want it to see if the lights are already on. And if they are, I want them to turn the lights off with a single press. If the lights are off, I want the single press to turn them on. Now, there's no way to do that in HomeKit natively, just with the actions that you saw. You have to tell it, turn this device on or off, and that's your only options. But what I did with a shortcut is I can say, all right, I'm going to go So I want to tell it to turn the theater lights on, but I need to add an if then statement in there. So this goes into a little bit of scripting, but I typed in, I want to look for an if. So there's my if statement, and I can drag these around. So I'm going to say if, if I choose the input, it says, all right, I can choose something in my home. So I'm going to say, all right, if my den lights, I'm going to say these den backlights. All right. And one of my den lights is called King Kong. So that's why it pulled up the King Kong name. But if it's on, then, and I'm going to click and drag this over here, then set theater lights to, actually, let me do it the other way. If it's off, if that light is off, then turn my theater lights on. Okay. Otherwise, and now I need to do another control my home. Otherwise, set, and I'm going to choose that same den backlights, and I'm going to turn them off. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I want to do the the whole theater lights. Sorry, I got the wrong one. Let me go back. I want to do theater lights on.
So if King Kong is off, then you set the theater lights on. Yep.
All right. If it's off, I want them turned on. Otherwise, I want theater lights off. Okay, that's right. So I can say, then do theater lights off. And I'm going to put that right there. Okay. So that's what that button's now going to do on a single click. If the light is off, when I click it, then I want it to turn the lights on. But if the lights obviously otherwise, meaning otherwise they're already on, then I want it to turn them off. And that's now my action on this. So if I say next, it shows me that, hey, I'm going to do this little shortcut whenever you do a single press now.
Nice. Okay.
So when I do that, and hopefully I programmed that right, it does, it took me a few attempts to make sure you get the logic right on it. But you can see the lights behind me. If I do my single click, yeah, it's slow. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that's one thing I have a beef with is the shortcuts. When you add a shortcut to it like that, it takes a couple extra seconds. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's going through a script. Yeah.
Single click, I just hit it. And here in a couple seconds, it does come on.
Nice.
So it works. It's not speedy, and that is a common complaint people have with HomeKit shortcuts is that they're not the fastest in responding. But it does work if if you want to extend the use of a single button or switch or click, you can actually have it run a whole shortcut with if-then statements and all those things it's checking. But that little button's just nestled all the way at the bottom of the list when you're choosing your devices. But you got to go to convert to shortcut, and it will create a shortcut automation for you that way. So
nice.
Just a little help.
Yeah, so that's good. That's I mean, especially if you want to get creative, right? And say, if I press this, but this other factor is happening, like it is, if I press, so let's say if I'm going down to my movie room, if I press this button and nothing's on, then I want all of these to come on. But if I press this button and two things are already on, then I don't want maybe all I want is the TV to come on, right? It's like, maybe I don't need everything else, right? But so you can kind of do it's
really good when you want things to depend on the state of another device.
Yeah.
Because you can't really pull that off natively just by the native interface on the HomeKit. But you go into the shortcuts, and then you can start to have multiple devices contingency on each other, what their state is. If this and this are at this state, then do this type of thing. So
yeah. And you can do the if-thens about time of day and all of that, right?
You can now natively. You can do obviously your time of day settings just for any singular device. And
no, but I'm thinking complex. Yeah, so let's say my garage connects to that movie room, and if we come in that way, if I say anytime the garage door opens, and it's after 7 o'clock at night, turn this light on so that when you come into that room, it's already on. Because if it's not after 7 o'clock, then I don't need it to turn on, because I've got light from the outside happening already. So I could do some if-thens about whether or not something is going to happen based on the time. So the click plus the time, taking that into account.
Weather. I mean, there's actually some scripting you can do in the shortcut. If you go and just kind of search through the different categories of scripting options you've got some things based on location that you can plug in. You got some things based on just website. But yeah, if I did I did weather. So you can actually say, all right, if weather is showing this, then do this, this, and this with my devices. I don't know of any way to do that within the HomeKit without going to the scripting, but you could do it. If there were devices that you wanted to close the windows, close the curtains, if it's going to be, sunny outside, whatever it may be. I don't know. You can come up with that, but knowing that you can go there and really play with that and say, all right, so I want to get the current weather, and then you do an if current weather is at this location is something, then do this other thing. Anyway, shortcuts are a lot of fun. They're not perfect. There's some disconnect between shortcuts you can create on your Mac or phone through the Shortcuts app that don't feed into this HomeKit shortcuts, which I don't understand. I would think there'd be a common repository of shortcuts. If you create them in one place, you should be able to access them in others. These pretty much live within the HomeKit once you create them, but they work with all the HomeKit devices, and they have all the shortcut extensions to work with other services and things on the web. So it's cool. It's fun to play with. So I definitely recommend once you get deeper into HomeKit or start playing around with it some more, you can really have some fun with it. And they'll run off of devices that are HomeBridge devices too. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, we have a sprinkler system here that we, go in and manually look at the app, and we tell it to do, certain things. Let's do this zone for 10 minutes, this zone, whatever. So while we were talking there, because you mentioned weather, I was looking in HomeBridge to see, is there a HydroWise, which is the kind of system that we're using. And there is. So potentially setting that up so that I could maybe even have the ability to control a certain zone and say, just voice, hey, turn the sprinklers on this zone for 10 minutes, if there's a way to control that, which would be really cool. So yeah. So it's some neat stuff.
Look, HomeKit gets a little better each time they run some updates. I mean, like you said, that latest update, I think it was like 16.2, maybe. I don't remember.
4, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Which is the one that did the upgrade on the HomeKit, added the Matter capability, Matter interface. I saw some improvements in reliability. I saw things run a little better. I felt like there's less failures. It used to be, Brian, about every time I'd hop into HomeKit, at least one device was showing up as not accessible, not responding, whatever. It's minimized now. I still get it popping up every once in a while. Sometimes it's just a delay in HomeKit registering a response from it. Occasionally, I do have to go track down that device and reset it or unplug it, plug it back in. I do that a lot less than I used to, but I still do it more than I'd like to. But I love the interface. I mean, I love how integral it is already tied into the iOS platform in general. So I'm a big fan. But still got some quirks to work out.
Yeah. No, it's got some things, but I'm really happy that even if I never go to right now, for me, that I never go to HomeKit to do anything, I can still use this button, right? Which I spend money on, right? And I don't have to send back now because I know it's constantly going to be able to pump in through the HomeKit version or the HomeKit app to be able to spit out what I want it to do. So, and it's not taking away from the Alexa zones and automations that I already have in place. So this is great. And if I've got everything in there, then yeah, it could be a lot nicer to go in and set up some if-then shortcuts, which can be a lot cleaner than doing it through the Amazon app as well. So, so we'll see. It may convert me. I mean, obviously, anything that I buy from here on, I will be probably looking for HomeKit compatible.
Well,
hopefully Matter. Hopefully
I was
Matter
gonna say,
does it.
definitely. I'm to the point now. I've officially said, look, at this point, if I'm buying new devices, I'm looking for ones that have Matter built in, because I just don't want to deal with any incompatibilities later on and don't have to worry about. And I don't want to be focused on whether or not it's got the little HomeKit icon on it or not.
Yep.
And luckily, there are enough of those starting to roll out right now, so I feel like there's some options out there for us. Yeah, good.
I think so. Yeah, man.
Well, I say welcome to at least a little bit of the HomeKit world. We're glad to have you here. Let me know if I can be of any further assistance. I feel like I solved like two of your problems. One thing. Is it just one thing I did this time?
I feel like I put a softball up there for you, though, right? I mean, I literally was doing this, up until the time we met. So, I'm sure I would have figured that out on my own in a few more minutes. But yeah, you're welcome. I put a big softball up there. You knocked it out. That was great.
Just giving me a little validation, just make me feel good about myself going into the new week, and just say, look, I may be not knowing what I'm doing in my job all week. I may be feeling like I'm floundering sometimes as a father, but by God, I helped my brother fix his one HomeKit issue on Sunday night. So I'm pretty good with that.
Well, I'm glad I made your week, and everything's on the up and up now, right? So
it's good. It's all good. It's all good. Smooth sailing now. All right. Well, Brian, I know we went a little deep dive on some HomeKit stuff and home automation in general, a little deeper than we normally do. But if anybody is still listening and with us at this point after all that, and maybe they got some thoughts, maybe, Brian mentioned a couple questions about, we already tested the whole, can HomeKit and Alexa devices kind of cooperate and control the same device? The answer is yes. We saw that. But maybe anybody else has gone through some of the same things Brian's been going through, kind of trying to integrate two different home environments and use them simultaneously. Are there some problems? Are there some things we need to watch out for? Are there some gotchas? Or just questions about home automation in general, since we went kind of deep on it? How can, Brian, anybody get a hold of us and talk to us about some of this?
Send us an email at info@themesh.tv. It's info@themesh.tv. You can also go to our website at www.brothers-in-tech.com.
Yeah, that's where it is. So let me go ahead and bring this down. And so we'll get together again next week. I think we're about due for a Brothers in Tech Suggestions episode.
Yep.
Time for a bit. That's where Brian and I bring a suggestion of some piece of technology we want to recommend. And I think I got a couple things I can recommend. I feel pretty good about. So we'll talk about those. That'll be good.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching and or listening. And we will plan to talk to you next time. Thanks a lot. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.